Sounds like the Philadelphia media is at it again, this time setting their sights on Jalen Hurts and the alleged fractured relationship with head coach Nick Sirianni. But a much closer look into this made-up drama reveals a much more accurate truth to the Birds' quarterback-head coach dynamic. I'm Thomas Mott. This is The Thomas Mott Show. Well, welcome to the 2024 NFL offseason, where the Birds are officially done with OTAs and minicamp. So instead of getting interesting minicamp clips or exciting player interviews or position breakdowns, the Eagles media naturally must drum up some sort of story in order to keep those clicks coming and the advertisers happy. Although it is interesting, no longer is A.J. Brown in the legacy media sites. I guess it's Jalen Hurts' turn to be the victim of another media attack. And so naturally, a media dump like this happens on a Friday, happened yesterday, because you, the actual viewer and consumer, can't really go online and complain about it because you have a family, you got things to worry about, kids, baseball games, golf, soccer practice, but they can still get the narrative out there that there's problems brewing in Philadelphia. Now, of course, this all stems behind the viral clip, you've seen it, I know you have, of Jalen Hurts giving an unenthusiastic, let's be honest, answer to a question about his head coach.
What have you noticed about, Nick being open-minded to change up the offense like he has? I mean, what does that say about him?
It's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to it.
Well, what have you seen from him as far as doing that?
I think he's just, he's been great, and the messages he's delivering to the team. He's trying to be very intentional in what he's saying, and yeah.
Well, this has apparently caused a lot of drama inside Philadelphia, according to the Inquirer's Jeff McClain, saying that some Eagles are not happy with Jalen Hurts' comments, citing anonymous sources, love those, inside the Eagles organization. Listen to this.
It was, needless to say, an awkward exchange. Hurts was given the opportunity to say something constructive about his coach and ended up not saying much at all. Maybe he misunderstood the question? I don't want to make too much of the moment. But if Hurts has shown anything during his time in Philadelphia, it's that he's intentional in almost everything he does. According to team sources, his handling of this question about Sirianni right before the Eagles parted for the summer disappointed several key figures within the organization. There was a player last year who had issues with Hurts. He's not on the team now. Maybe that lets Hurts, who's still only 25, assert his leadership more. I followed up on this idea with team sources. They said Hurts has been making more of an effort with his teammates and coaches.
So we get the classics, right? Anonymous source and unnamed players. So we're not going to tell you who it is. We're not going to tell you exactly how high up or low they are in the whole totem pole, but know that they said it, and that's why you got to pay attention. Let's just tackle the whole player upset at Hurts first, because he mentions that it's a player who's now gone. He was on the roster last year. That's easy to figure out. Here are your departures last year. Kevin Byard, Jack Driscoll, Marcus Mariota, Nicholas Morrow, Sue Opeta, Hassan Reddick, Jack Stoll, DeAndre Swift, Quez Watkins, and Olamide Zaccheaus. Any guesses? Any guesses on the player that's upset or was upset at Jalen Hurts? Let me know down below in the comments section. I think Hassan Reddick might be an option here. Remember, there was a rogue player who was chasing sacks last year. Reddick seemed to be a little bit upset with the team. Could have been Josh Sweat. Who knows? But the Eagles did try to re-sign Hassan Reddick, and so I'm not convinced that it was him. A better option, and let's be real here, it's got to be Quez Watkins. Maybe DeAndre Swift, sure. I mean, he was around Jalen Hurts a lot, at least in the offensive room. But Quez is kind of the only player on this list who would have spent a lot of time with Hurts, and it kind of makes sense for being upset at him due to his lack of targets and production after he promised to have a breakout year at the start of 2023. If your immediate reaction is, why do I care what Quez Watkins thinks, or why do we care what any of these other potential players thinks about Jalen Hurts? Yeah, that's exactly how you should be thinking, because they're no longer Eagles, and it does not matter. This is why anonymous sources, and I understand, big J journalism, but they're just so frustrating in situations like this, because anonymous high-up sources could be Jeffrey Lurie or Howie Roseman, or they could be some random guy in the front office. They could be the front desk lady. They could be the head cook in the kitchen. Like, there's just no way to know who's actually upset here, and it could just be one person. Everybody else could be totally fine with the comments and be like, hey, just Jalen being Jalen. He doesn't talk much anyway, and so not a big deal. And I think this is why most of us fans hate reports like this, because it just brews plenty more unwanted drama from the media going forward, right? Now they have stories to write about, more angles to go at, and if the Birds struggle at any point during training camp or preseason, or especially during the actual regular season, and Hurts, of course, doesn't seem to be in love with Nick Sirianni, then this will be brought up time and time again, and it's going to be asked to Hurts and Sirianni 10x more more times over the next couple of months. Plus, again, it's June. Like, there's nothing going on in the media world. If this was August during training camp when there's a ton of stories going on, do you think the media would have kind of put this one out into the ether? Remember, Jalen Hurts had one semi-kind of bad year, but not really bad year last season. Yes, he threw too many interceptions. He didn't target the middle of the field enough, but was this all Jalen Hurts' fault or the product of the horrific offense led by his head coach or offensive coordinator, who knows, that forced him to run what was, again, a really bad system? We have proof that Jalen Hurts can look solid in a solid offensive scheme, and he played at an MVP level during 2022, which was, 2 seasons ago? And of course, during that winning season, he got along with his head coach just fine, and no one was worried about their relationship. So of course, take this with the smallest grain of salt ever. These are things that you don't really want to talk about, you don't really want to, shed light on, but it is the offseason. There's not a lot of things to go ahead and discuss. But Josh Davis and I did talk about this during our Wednesday Link Live, and he had some really good points about how this is, again, not a big deal. I am curious, though, your take on the Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts beef that apparently is going to be the talking point of all, local media members, including the radio stations, for the next couple of days. You did a show on it yesterday. I got to watch half of that show. I didn't get to finish it, though. Is it much to do about nothing, or did you think there was something there in Hurts' non-answer on what Nick Sirianni does well right now?
To me, it's very little about nothing. Maybe it's not nothing about nothing, but it's very little about nothing. You can make the argument. You can certainly make the case. Sure. Could Jalen have said something a little bit different? Maybe so. But at the same time, and Anthony DeBona even brought this up whenever we had an interview, but like saying, how often does Jalen really even go out of his way for anyone of a lot of high praise? Really, he doesn't say much. Even about like, hey, AJ Brown and him are apparently best friends, right? Like godfather to each other's kids and like all that situation. But sometimes when they get asked or he gets asked like, hey, what do you think about AJ? Very little. Like, yep, he's staying focused. He's keeping the main thing. And it's kind of like you could ask a lot of other quarterbacks about their receiver and they would rave about the guy. And that's not to say that Hurts is, not wanting to give AJ attention or anything else. That's just not his personality. And so to me, I'm like, it's not a huge deal. You got to believe that Jalen is also knowing and understanding, especially after last season, whatever he says is going to be twisted, is going to be put out there by the media, and then all of a sudden it's going to be getting blown out of proportion. Yeah. So he could have also been sitting there going, as he said, I don't know exactly how to answer that one, of like, what do I say so you guys don't take this and run with it and blow it out of proportion? And so, sure, does it come out and once he says it, make it weird or awkward or whatever? Maybe so, because the speculation already of the guys not getting along or Sirianni losing the locker room and all these other reports or rumors or things like that came out right around the playoffs or right after the playoffs. But to me, it's like I'm not buying it. I think it's an off-season topic. We got to talk about it, right? So something happens. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. The team is going to be fine. Jalen is locked in. I don't believe. I think it was Joe DeCamera who said that he believes that Lurie is ticked off at Jalen for that press. I think that's a little bit of a stretch to say Lurie watched that and was like, oh my gosh, there's my franchise quarterback not getting on board. He's going to be okay. Was it maybe the best thing to say from a just strictly PR stance? Probably not, because you're going to have these media outlets do it. But is it a sound the alarms? Not even close. I'm not concerned about it. The team's going to be fine. But again, we're in June, and kind of as we talked about, it was like May is Kenny Pickett outperforming Jalen Hurts. June is Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. July will be something else with Jalen. So it's just going to keep on going into the season, unfortunately, and that's just the way things are. But
I always
it's
like
not
to
a big deal.
Paint a picture for people who maybe aren't in the media world like you and I really used to be. And I mean, YouTubers are different than radio hosts or column writers, but we've been there and done that. Like you said, it's June. If you are a local Philadelphia column writer, sports radio host, what are you talking about? The Phillies are on game 66 of 162, right? I mean, you're not even halfway through the MLB season. How much do these games actually matter? Okay, there's one talking point. The Eagles have nothing over the next, 6 weeks. The Sixers have nothing because the NBA Finals are happening right now. There's nothing going on. I mean, truly, there is nothing going on. And so what do you want to talk about, right? You just want to have random conversations about the Kyrie
Olympic
Irving
prep
and stuff? Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Talk about Devin Allen for
Yeah,
6
sure.
weeks or something. But
so you got to talk about something, and
Yeah.
this is what they're doing. Same thing with the New York media right now with Aaron Rodgers, telling the Jets months ago, I'm going on this trip, not knowing the mandatory mini camps were going to be today and tomorrow, and then he was like, hey, I'm not going to make it. I told you guys I wouldn't be there, and the media is acting like Aaron Rodgers has just shot every member of the Jets team and flown away to Europe and like it's some sort of getaway plane. He's just like, he's not there for mandatory mini camp. Like, what is
Right.
going on? But we've got to talk about something. So, there's got to be some sort of conversations that are happening out there, and that's the whole Jalen Sirianni thing. Do I think Jalen and Nick Sirianni are BFFs? No, I don't think anybody thinks that. Do I think they hate each other, or Jeffrey Lurie's mad at Jalen Hurts for, like you said, not praising the Sirianni, but not ripping Sirianni? No, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think Jalen's friends with a bunch of people. I think that kind of came out during the course of last year's, 6-game losing streak, where it was like Jalen's buddies with a couple people, but he's not like a big, warm, I love everybody sort of guy like some quarterbacks are and a lot of quarterbacks aren't. I think he has his boys. He rides with A.J. Brown very clearly, and that's basically it. And so, at this point, it is what it is, and all we care about is winning and losing. And at this point, they haven't done any winning, and we're losing, and so there's not much to go ahead and freak out about.
But again, like you say, there's something that we have to talk about. So
Sure.
it gets blown out of proportion,
Sure.
and unfortunately, it's the topic. But it's almost like Groundhog Day, because whenever I saw the notification come up, or whenever it was on WIP first, I was like, hang on. Are we in January again? Like, this
Nope.
feels like we talked about, we got all this hashed out back in January.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Like, we're going to just stir this thing back up. But again, to your point, it's the offseason. There's something to be talking about.
And we got plenty more stuff happening the next couple of days and weeks, including a lot of informational documentary-style videos, similar to my A.J. Brown one released just a couple of days ago, because again, there's not a lot of news, and so we're going to try to have a lot more fun with you guys on this channel until real news happens. I'm Thomas Mott. This is The Thomas Mott Show.